Welcome to Advent of Code Day 5, and we're going to be looking at a more complicated refactor, which is extracting or converting a function into a method class, so you can split things up more easily but still sort of save state between them. So we've got this make event report function here, which is pretty long. There's lots of different bits to it. It's basically taking a list of all of the events, then it's going through all of those events and it's fetching data about those events from some external API. Then it's building some data like about all of those things, figuring out some sort of total overall sales and percentage of total attendees, stuff like that. And it's converting it all into a CSV, writing it out into a local buffer, and then sort of returning the content of the CSV so that it can be like printed to a file or displayed somehow. I don't know really. But it's yes, it's just building a report about all of these events. So what we want to do is just sort of make it into a single class that we can then use to control in different ways. So what I'm going to start by doing is, I don't know where this function is being used across the code base, and I don't really want to break anywhere across the code base. So I'm going to start off by just calling it make event report, and I'm going to make a new copy of it. The easier way to do it would just be to copy this, to be honest, wouldn't it? Just copy that, make event report, and we're going to say return make event report, start date, end date. So that's also a minor refactoring, is just like creating a wrapper around something before you do any major refactorings. And since we're going to be doing multiple pieces to this, I'm going to suggest that every single step that we do now, we're going to wrap it in a separate commit so we can go back to it easily. We can always merge the commits later. So to open up the commit sidebar here, save that, commit sidebar here, make event reports thing. I'll stage just that one file. We don't want to touch anything else. There's other random files lying around. We don't really care about those. So we can say refactor 1. What should we call this one? Wrap function. Commit. There we go. So to now convert this into a class, just go here and we'll say class event report generator. There we go. Then select this whole function here, scroll to the bottom, select that, indent it by pressing tab, add self in there, so it's now a method. And here we can just say event report generator dot make event report. There we go. So we've now turned this into a class and this into a method. We've not changed any of the other things. So let's open the sidebar straight away, select these changes here, and we will then stage those changes and create a commit, which is going to be refactor into class, commit, close the sidebar, close that, we don't need. Cool. So let's go through and start refactoring these into individual methods, shall we? Individual pieces. So we've got data here fetching that. That's a good candidate. So let's select that and refactor, extract method, and we'll call this one fetch data from external API. See, it's clever enough to pass in the event that it needs here. Scroll down. There's another whole chunk down the bottom here that's converting to CSV stuff. That's totally separate, isn't it? So let's refactor that. Extract method, and we'll call this create CSV output string. There we go. So we've now got that. One thing you might notice is I'm not very good at naming things correctly the first time. I've named this one as create. I've named this whole thing as generator. I've named this function as make. I'm not good at naming things. And it's convenient that we can rename stuff, because at the end we can go through and decide to rename stuff to make them more sense. But for now it doesn't particularly matter what we call them, as long as they're all separate and clear what they're all doing. Save that. And we probably ought to do a commit there again. So select this, commit those those changes and extract, fetch, refactor, extract, fetch, and output functions. Commit, close that, close that. So we've now got some of the pieces being split out. So now this actual generating piece here is a lot simpler. So let's have a look through what bits could we extract next. I mean, this one line we could. I'm not going to bother right now. You can do that yourself if you want. So this external event details, what's it doing? It's only being used at the end and somewhere else and a third time, all in separate places. Feels to me like that would be a good candidate for turning into a class variable. So let's rename this, or class attribute. We'll just rename that to self.externalEventDetails. There we go. So that's updated all those places. I think these other ones as well might be good ones to do as well. So let's rename that to self.totalSales. Rename that to self.totalAttendees. We might as well do it with this one as well, eh? Self.events. So we've now got all of our setup stuff at the beginning there, and then we're actually using it for the rest of them. If you wanted to at this point, what we could do would be to grab all of those and pop them here and do def init. And move those two things into there, because I think that's the only places they're being used. We can then move those into here. So we've now refactored how it's all being put together, and still good. It's still, like, across the code base, we've still got the same place that it's being used there. So again, let's open the sidebar here and stage those changes and refactor, extract, class variables, I guess we'll call them. The attributes officially. Let's call them that, why not? Commit, and we don't need that anymore. Cool. So next steps to look for recalculating stuff. This looks like it's doing a separate stage at the end there. It's calculating all those things, calculating percentages. So let's refactor and then extract to calculate percentages. It's extracted that nicely. For event in soft, doing all of this stuff. So let's grab all of that stuff, shall we? And again, refactor this to create row data. Converted auto and output string. Don't actually need this comment here, do we? And we don't even need that. We could just say return. So we've now, our one main function has actually been cut into smaller pieces. And we could go through, if we want to do each of these individual places, and sort of split those into separate pieces again. It's up to you to decide, like, how far do you need to go for it, how much does each piece make sense to stay as it is. So we've now got this one function that's doing everything still. We've split it all into separate pieces. One of the advantages of splitting into a class like this is that we could change the functionality to make it less all in one batch if we wanted to. So this function here, if we rename this to calculate all event row data, like that, and we don't need to be passing this in, do we? That's a bit of an odd one. Let's go have a look at this show shall we? It doesn't need to be passed in, that stuff, because that's something we missed from earlier, isn't it? So rename that to self dot, then remove it from here, because it can use that quite happily. So we've now got, where were we? Calculating it and then returning it, because the generating CSV is kind of different from all the calculation, isn't it? So let's remove that completely and just shove it up here for now. Report equals that, and then we can say report dot create CSV output string. So we've now split the report out, so we can now control it from external places if we want to. So we can say report dot calculate all event data. It's not all chunked up together in one go. We can now decide which bits of it we want to call from external places. It's sort of cleaning it up into separate concerns of what's going on. So that's converting a single massive function into a class for doing stuff. I found this pattern is really useful in like generating reports or big complex output files, archive zip files with lots of different pieces, importers as well, like importing from external databases or from XML files or from external websites, stuff like that. Often these things grow organically and end up being quite chunky functions. So being able to convert them into a class like this and then share pieces of the class between other classes can be really helpful. So, yeah, that's all for today.